Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of The Clinch. We named it kind of unofficially. Wasn't much of a conversation about it. We have Keith Robert on the show again. He was on there last week. Setting out this week, Zach was on. He was on last week. Did a great job, Zach. Thank you for your help with that. Today we have Jay Gibbs on. And I'm actually going to kick it over to Jay and have him start it off with how he got into the UFC.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Keith, Justin, really appreciate it. Looking forward to expanding my knowledge even more with this show. As far as UFC goes, I used to be into it back when I started off in college. We used to go to the fight, go to like Buffalo Wild Wings or Hooters and watch the fights. Just kind of casually watched. I didn't really get back into it until I joined Sports Talk, and actually. When Keith started his hashtag MMA takeover of ST, and just kind of, all of a sudden I'd see all these stories about so-and-so fighter is matched up with so-and-so, and this injury, that injury. I'm like, okay, and all of a sudden I found myself caring about these fighters and like what matchup was what, and like somebody at work would mention, oh, are you gonna watch the fight? And I'm like, yeah, and I actually. Not only could just say yes, but actually go like, well, this is what I think is going to happen, and I didn't sound like a complete idiot. So thank you, Keith. You do put in a lot of work over at Sports Talk, just doing all the different lists, that the 25 greatest fighters breakdown, just a lot of updates. Zach does a lot of good work, too. And, of course, Justin doing some great work as well. But, yeah, that's really how I got into it. And keeping up in sports talk is really how I stay interested. The Fantasy League on UFC.com, the DraftKings events. It's just now with DraftKings and having the fantasy aspect to it, it's really easy to get excited about it and like feel like you're more involved. Like if you're kind of a casual fan, like I started off as, it was hard to get invested. But now, like, okay, so I put a couple bucks down. And then all of a sudden, I'm really watching the fight because I need to know exactly what's happening. How am I going to win points? How am I going to, get ahead? And it's been a really good time, and I'm really excited to see it keep growing.
Yeah, what I've always said for years now is any sports fan will become an MMA fan once they start finding out who the fighters are and kind of know who's fighting who. That's why you see a lot of interest in main events because people know who they are, but they won't really be paying attention to undercard fights because they don't know them. So what's great about these DraftKings leagues is you have to take undercard guys. So you start rooting for these guys, and you pay attention, and then you remember, like a lot of guys maybe, a couple months ago didn't know who Yair Rodriguez is, but then they took him in a DraftKings league, so then they remember him now that when he's fighting in the main events. If you want to be an MMA fan or you want to get into MMA, throw $10 into a DraftKings league, and then it'll entertain you for the next 5 hours.
Absolutely. You mentioned, maybe you didn't know who Rodriguez was. I actually picked Feely in the fight before the main event, and I watched him take a knee to his face from Rodriguez, and I was like, okay, remember this guy. Picking against him is probably something you should second guess. But it works.
That dude that fought Rodriguez is never going to forget his name.
Absolutely not. Anyway, the main event of the fight night card was Yair Rodriguez and Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, as he's commonly known as, Afro Thunder, or any nickname you want to give him. It was a very interesting fight, in my opinion. I went through a few stats afterwards because there's a lot of spinning stuff and all these crazy kicks and like all this stuff. I went through some stats afterward, and I'm looking at their percentage when they're striking. Rodriguez landed 36%, Caceres landed 32%. So there was a lot of whiffs during that fight, but on a free card for somebody flipping through channels, if they go through and stop on that fight and they're saying all these things, I think it's something that will really actually just help bring in the more casual fans. Just they both have an exciting fighting style. Rodriguez, of course, edged out the decision. I don't think it was that close of a fight. I could see Caceres getting 2 rounds out of it. Definitely the third round was Very, very exciting fight for me. Keith, what did you notice about that fight?
Well, I noticed one judge was absolutely blind because one judge scored the fight 49-46 for Alex Caceres.
Yeah, about that. Do you think he just like had the names mixed up on the card and like never realized it before he handed it in? Because there's no way he truly thought that, right?
I think the only thing I can think of is that maybe the guy, and this probably going to get to my next rant, is the guy's a little much of a traditionalist and he doesn't like the spinning stuff. He doesn't like the karate style, and he probably doesn't find it too effective. I'm assuming usually they go by the corners too. It'll say label which corner they're in, so it'd be really hard for them to screw up who was who.
Just anything up.
But like I said, I didn't think it was that close to the fight either. I scored it 49-46 for Rodriguez. I gave Caceres the third round. I could see where the fourth round might be debatable, even though I thought Rodriguez won that fight. One thing I was really surprised, or actually I shouldn't say surprised, but almost annoyed by the post-fight. I didn't watch it live, but everyone started talking about it, so I watched it later. Was Kenny Florian and Michael Bisping, and then them dogging Rodriguez because he does the spinning taekwondo style with his spinning kicks and his spinning back fists and the flying stuff, and they were really disappointed in the fight, and I wasn't. I was very entertained. And the thing about this is mixed martial arts. If I want to watch a boxing match where guys just throw punches, then I'll watch boxing. If I want to watch guys just grapple, then I'll watch a grappling tournament. That's the great thing about MMA is that you blend all these styles. That's what makes it unique. You know, you have boxing, you have kickboxing, you got Muay Thai and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and judo and now you got your taekwondos and your karates, and he's been very effective so far. Sure, he hasn't fought the top level, and I see some holes in his game, but guys like Lyoto Machida has used his karate. Conor McGregor has a very karate style to him. I think Justin Scoggins, who's kind of coming up as a flyweight and now moving up to bantamweight, he uses a lot of karate style. Kung Lee had success using a karate style. And this kid's only 23 years old, and a lot of people are kind of going hard on him. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's 5-0 in the UFC. He won the Tough Latin America tournament, which it is what it is. It's like winning a skiing match in Kenya. But I thought, I mean, there is holes, but he's only 23 years old. His kicks are great. I mean, you can dog it because he doesn't have the natural Muay Thai style to the kicks, but his kicks are fast. He throws them in combinations. He fights. I mean, Krylov a week ago, very similar. Was just throwing kicks the whole time and was very effective with it. I was impressed how he would throw low, throw high. He'd throw to the legs, then he'd throw to the body, then throw to the head. And the one thing that I was most impressed by was, he faded a little bit in the fifth round, but this guy's throwing high energy shots, and he's in Salt Lake City, in Utah, and he's still coming. He's still bringing it. He threw a high amount of strikes. I was so impressed by his cardio to be going in his first main event, the pressure of that, in the fifth round. I mean, Caceres, he isn't a superstar, but I mean, in the fifth round, in a fairly competitive fight, and he still pretty much kept the same volume he had in the first round. I think I don't get, if you want to watch boxing, you want to just watch, you want to be, he doesn't throw his hands good, he doesn't throw his kicks like Muay Thai like Anderson Silva does. Well, then go watch K1 kickboxing.
You mentioned the volume, Keith, and that was another thing I was looking at just a little bit ago. Rodriguez threw 343 strikes in that fight. He landed 124, so you want to see that at a little bit better clip, but with the style, it makes sense.
I did have a question about that, if I could interrupt quickly.
Go ahead.
I guess for the more casual fan, like myself and maybe some of the guys watching who want to get more into it, you brought up the strikes landed percentage. of 36 and 32%. Now, what Keith or Justin, whoever would like to field this, what would an ideal percentage be, or what are you ideally looking
100?
for?
100?
Well, yeah, or sorry, what would be average, or what would be a good night of striking?
I think not much higher than 35%. I mean, I would put it probably in the 40s. I wouldn't
40s?
think
Okay.
much higher. But it really depends. It's such a skewed thinking because there's two issues. One is the way the scoring is. CompuStrike really tends to score things that really don't land if it hits a body part. If the guy has to block it, a lot of times they score that as a strike landed. But also a guy's style, a guy like Yaya Rodriguez, a lot of his kicks were actually just ranging distance. So it made like a lot of times he'd throw his kick up, I'm demonstrating it. He'd throw his kick up to range distance, and they count that as a strike. And it's more of when you see fighters going like this with their hands and they're trying to grab hands. That's not strikes. They're just ranging distance. And a lot of times he was doing that. And also some guys will throw in the distance just to get the guy on the defense to land the shot.
Right,
So the
to
guy
set up
really
something
can't
else.
counter. So it's really deceiving by each opponent.
Okay.
A guy like Frank
Yeah, no, I
Edgar,
thought I just wanted to kind of ask that and get that fielded in case that's a question somebody watching might have. I kind of had the question as well as just wanted to get a little bit better understanding of it. Thanks.
yeah, a guy like Frankie Edgar is always popping the jab in front of the face, so that those will always his striking stats will always low. Dominic Cruz's striking stats will always be low because he's throwing things to really set up things later. So it's really deceiving.
Okay.
I thought he was very effective with striking.
He was. The other thing I was going to bring up, of the 124 that he landed, they measured 120 of them as significant. So he only had 4 strikes that they didn't deem
There you
significant.
go.
And actually, Caceres did really well in that aspect too. He landed 65, and only 3 weren't counted as significant.
If you're throwing 300 something strikes and you're throwing pretty much Rodriguez only throws big shots. He doesn't throw like the Diaz brothers are the king of the kind of pat and then bam. While Rodriguez he's throwing hard right from the beginning. To throw that many strikes and still be going hard in the 5th round, I'm really impressive. I mean, there is a few things defensively. I think he has some holes. I think he tries some high level things that gets him to. I think he set up Caceres to land on top of him a couple times. He did in the first. He was able to scramble out. He did it again in the second. Was able to scramble out. 3rd round, he wasn't able to. If he tries that stuff against, I'm not even checking the top guys in the division, but like your range from 6 to 10 range guys, like Dennis Bermudez, who fought right before him. I think Ricardo Lamas, Cub Swanson. It's gonna be a bad day for him. So I understand that he's very exciting, some of the things he does, but he's definitely going to have to clean it up a little bit. And defensively, Caceres landed a lot of shots that if Conor McGregor or Jose Aldo lands something like that,
They're going
it's
down.
a bad night.
Yeah. You mentioned these other guys that you think Rodriguez would have a harder time against. What do you think is next for him? Who do you think would be a good fight for him? Would the winner of Ortega and Diaz make sense to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great fight for him. Especially if Ortega won because it's such a different style. While Ortega is more of a ground fighter who's progressing in the stand-up, while Rodriguez is the opposite, a stand-up fighter who's progressing in the ground. I'm going to answer that question as 2 parts. I really like that. That's actually a great matchup, and it would make a lot of sense for him. But I would kind of answer this in 2 parts because I really think he's still developing. So who I think they'll match him up versus who I would match them up against. Obviously, he's got to take a step up from Caceres. He's got to go the next level up. 2 guys, when we talked about this, that I thought of was 2 veterans kind of on their way out but still competitive, is Thiago Tavares and Tatsui Kawajiri, who are also fought on this card. I think Tavares is a veteran. He's been around in the UFC forever. Um, what I would think would be great about him is because he wants to drag people down to the ground. So it would really test uh, um, Rodriguez's takedown defense versus a top level grappler. And then Kawajira is the same thing. He want to take it to the ground, more of a wrestling base and ground and pound. So I think that's a matchup. But who I think they'll put him against, I think they're gonna have to put him even higher because what happens is they're really trying to get into Mexican. The Mexican fan base. Mexicans huge into boxing. They're trying to crack into that. That's why they're rushing a 23-year-old. That's why he's main eventing. I mean, Cub Swanson versus Kawajiri is a much more prolific fight. Even Dennis Bermudez was a bigger fight. Talis Latis, Chris Camozzi is arguably a bigger fight than this fight. But they're trying to get obviously the press for Rodriguez. I think a guy that would be a really interesting and make a lot of sense is the Korean Superboy, Dung Ho Choi. I think he's 3 or 4-0 in the UFC. He's got all by knockouts. He just knocked out Thiago Tavares. He's young himself. He's got tons of pop. Then you really got that traditional Choi, who's more of a boxing style. He gets in the pocket and he throws bombs, especially for that weight division. And then you got the Taekwondo style of Rodriguez. Both guys have strong bases that they're trying to get into. They're trying to get in the Mexican market. They're trying to get in the Japanese market, or the Asian market altogether. I could see that as a fight night pass main event. That would make a lot of sense, and I think it'd be a great matchup. I would love to see both guys, how they would react to the other guy's style, because I think that'd be the first time Rodriguez would fight somebody who is probably a more technically stronger fighter with a lot of pop. But also, I'd like to see how the Superboy reacts to someone throwing spinning back kicks at him and spinning back punches and guy who's probably faster than him.
Oh yeah, about Choi, he's undefeated UFC, 3-0, 3 first-round knockouts. So it took him, it looks like 4 punches in his last fight.
Wow.
So yeah, that pop you
You have
mentioned.
anybody you'd like to see him face?
I was gonna say, I think you covered everything that what little research I was getting in before we started. I think you covered everything.
But I could also see what Justin said about Hakran Diaz and Brian Ortega. That's actually, especially if both of them are ground fighters. Exciting. Both are, I think they're in the UFC's top 10.
Yeah,
in their rankings on their website, or at least top 15. Brian Ortega's on the. I'm cheating. I got our Sports Talk rankings. Brian Ortega's in the honorable mentions on our rankings. That's the only ones that matter. And obviously, if Ortega or Diaz fought Rodriguez, the winner of that fight would definitely put themselves in the top 10 for our rankings.
Yeah, UFC.com has Ortega at 9 and Diaz at 10.
That
yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Let's jump over to GSP getting tested. Looks like the return's, in the works. What do you think? It's been such a long layover. Who does he get back in a fight? Is it a money draw, like where you get another big name in there, or do you give him one fight to get his rust out, and how should they play that?
Is that to me or is that to Jay?
I'll start it to you.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about this one a lot because obviously, St. Pierre's been out for so long that you really don't know. He's been out for 3 years now. One thing he never did is he never retired. He said he was taking time off, so it's always been a possibility that he would return. I don't know how old he is. I think he's about 31 or around that, 32. So he's still, still in his prime or a couple of good years left. The problem with the UFC right now, where I think they'd have to rush St. Pierre back into a mega fight, if he really is coming back. And now that the testing he's getting tested, it really seems like it. He's been calling people out. He's been training. I've always said right now there's 6 stars in MMA. There's St. Pierre, Brock Lesnar, John Jones, in no particular order, John Jones, Ronda Rousey, Anderson Silva, and Conor McGregor. And the problem is they have issues with all 6 guys. Obviously, Brock Lesnar's on the WF contract, just got busted for possible PED use. He's older in age. You don't know what's going on with him. So they got that issue. John Jones, PED use, cocaine, whatever. He's probably next week going to find out he robbed a bank. So you got that issue. Conor McGregor, you got a guy he's holding up a division. He's already lost to Diaz. Kind of like foreshadowing later, I think he's going to lose again. So his stock is taking a big loss, especially if he loses Diaz again. Ronda Rousey's having a mental breakdown somewhere because she lost. You don't know when she's returning. Supposedly they're saying maybe this winter or maybe early next year. And Anderson Silva, I mean, he's in his 40 years old. He's on, I mean, how many fights he's lost in a row? He's pretty much on his last leg. So this is a star-driven sport. The hardcores like me, and kind of you guys, I would consider you guys hardcores now. You watch every fight. We're gonna watch. We're gonna watch the Tyrone Woodleys and the Stephen Thompsons and those guys. But the casual fans, the guy that I just talked to church this week, and you guys you see at the grocery store, they only care about the stars. St. Pierre's a star, and they desperately need him. So that's why I think they're gonna rush him to a big fight, into a main event fight. I don't think you're gonna get George St. Pierre doing a warm-up fight, against a Kelvin Gastelum on a co-main event. I think you're gonna see him in a big fight. Who would I match him up against? I kind of came up with 3 answers. The most obvious answer is Tyron Woodley. Obviously, he's a champion in the weight class that St. Pierre left from without losing the belt. So obviously, that's the most obvious answer. I think Stephen Thompson deserves that title fight first. But this is George St. Pierre. He left as a champion. I rank the greatest fighter of all time, at least in everybody's top 3 or 4. And Thompson doesn't sell himself. And St. Pierre, to his credit, he really doesn't sell himself either, but his persona kind of does. Kind of like what Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wasn't a big trash talker, wasn't a big flamboyant guy, but his brand sold himself. The other fight, another fight I would think of that would make sense if you want to do a warm-up fight before Tyron Woodley. If you want to give Tyron Woodley Stephen Thompson, I think a great fight would be George St. Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks. Have him fight it back again. Second fight, a lot of people thought Hendricks won. I did. I scored 3 rounds to 2 for Hendricks. Lot closer fight than people remember. A lot of people act like Hendricks destroyed St. Pierre. Obviously, Hendricks isn't the top guy as he used to be, as he's lost a couple fights. But I think just for St. Pierre's namesake, to give him revenge, his win that he beat Hendricks, I think that makes sense. But the fight that I would do more than that was my 2. The fight that I would do is a fight that we've talked about for years, and I think if you don't do it now, you're never gonna get a chance. I would match up George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva. It's a fight it's a dream fight. I got him ranked as the top 2 greatest fighters of all time. Obviously, Anderson Silva have a big size advantage. Anderson Silva's on his last leg. I know it's a money draw. I know it's not what it could have been 5 years ago. But Chuck Liddell and Wanderlei Silva was not what it should have been, and it was still entertaining, and it was a fight for the hardcore fans. I think George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva, co-main event, UFC 205 in New York City. That's what I would do.
Nice.
I kind of took everybody's thunder by naming 3. So I don't know if I really gave you guys out. But what happened was last week we were supposed to have a half-hour show, and we went an hour. and I blame Zach for that because Zach didn't understand the rules. The rules was it's 30 minutes, which means I talk for 27 minutes, Justin talks for 2 minutes, and then Zach gets the last minute.
See, I understand the rules. I understand it's like 27 minutes for Keith, like 3 minutes for Justin, and I'm background nodding.
Smile and nod.
Just look
Smile and
looking
nod.
sexy in the background.
to kind of build off, or not build off of, but add on to what Keith was saying. I personally think, Woodley was, he is who GSP should come up against. Dude, GSP is a beast. Like, I know he's Keith's favorite fighter of all time.
No, not my favorite.
No?
No, he's not. He's just who I think is the best.
Okay. I thought he was you. Okay, but I mean, he's a monster, and I think you're right though, as well, that a fight needs to draw that star power, especially for UFC. It is independent. It's not a regionalized team-based sport like football, hockey, baseball, basketball. You don't need to know the stars to be a fan of, your local, your state's, football team or baseball team or whatever. You just need to like the team and follow basic wins, losses. For UFC, they need those stars to drive the casual guy who's looking through TV and sees Fight Night on, and he needs to have a name he knows. They need to have that marketing, which I was a big Conor McGregor fan. I'm a big fan of swagger. I'm a big fan of talk a big game and then go knock the guy out. But I also agreed that, he was complaining about being put on these marketing tours. I don't know why you're upset about your employer giving you a platform to mouth off and build the brand. Your persona is what's building UFC. So, you need to kind of, know your role, and and UFC is they're hungry for a star that they can hold up and go, yeah, this is the guy, this is UFC, or the girl, But you're right, John Jones needs to realize the talent that he has and not squander it. McGregor needs to keep backing up what he says. Rousey needs to do a round on Oprah or something. But no, I understand, exactly what you mean. Where I think the Anderson is bringing in star power, bringing in the draw for the casual fan. But I think a big star like GSP is if he comes back, and he's calling people out, UFC is going to want to give him that title fight as soon as possible.
It's funny because a guy that I am obviously a hardcore, I've been around, but I try to balance myself between the casual fan and the hardcore to understanding. A lot of hardcore fans hate Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice was great for MMA. It was great for the big exposure of the sport. He drew 12, 14, 13, whatever numbers. He drew the biggest numbers when he was fighting to casual fans to come, and many of those casual fans stuck around. And that's why MMA is so big today. Yes, I understand the first thing was Dana White and the Fertitas buying UFC. The rule changes. It's not. I'm not gonna say all Kimbo Slices. The Ultimate Fighter was a huge reason to get casual, but Kimbo Slice was another big part of that and getting people into MMA. So a lot of people like to dog Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice was a huge addition to MMA because of his persona, this mean street fighter that fights because he likes it, not because he wants money and just because he was mean and he's that guy that your mom told you not to mess with, And the reason why I think St. Pierre for the title makes so much sense is if you have Tyron Woodley fight Stephen Thompson for the title and they win, and St. Pierre say he comes back and you give him a title, you give him a warm up fight, or you give Anderson Silva or whatever, which I'm okay with either scenario. I just want him to be back, to be honest. But say St. Pierre wins, no one's going to view Tyron Woodley or Stephen Thompson as a champion until they beat St. Pierre. It's kind of the situation you have with Daniel Cormier right now. Daniel Cormier is a champion. He's beaten everyone who's been in front of him except for John Jones. And John Jones, until he beats John Jones, no one views him as the champion. And I think Tyron Woodley is going to have the same situation until he beats St. Pierre or Stephen Thompson or whoever wins the title next. Until they beat St. Pierre, as long as St. Pierre is fighting, then they won't be viewed as a champion.
All right, I want to hop over to another fighter coming back, Tim Kennedy, and there was actually kind of a interesting story attached to this. A USA DA representative went to Kennedy's house to administer a drug test, because he's coming back, and Kennedy pulled a gun on him and thought he was ISIS. There's a lot tied into that on why he thought that, but something you don't read every day. Kennedy, of course, he's a military guy. I believe, Keith, you said Green Beret?
Yeah, he's Green Beret, yep.
So,
he's the Bronze Star.
So he may actually be somebody that, maybe UFC kind of missed an opportunity with that. Maybe they could have pushed him a little more, just based on, what he is to the American people, I don't know. Maybe not. But what are your thoughts on him coming back? He says he has a fight, and it just hasn't been released who it is yet. Do you have any guesses, any ideas who it is? I just know it's a big name. What do you think, Keith? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wicked excited to come back. We have Tim Kennedy ranked in our honorable mention in our top 10, and that's mostly just because he hasn't fought in 2 years. If he was active, he'd probably be around 7 or 8 in our rankings. He's 3-1 in the UFC. His only loss in the UFC has come to Yoel Romero, an extremely controversial fight that I thought he should have won. But he should have won a referee stoppage, or I don't know what it would be considered. He was beating Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero went back to the corner, sat on the stool, and didn't answer when they told him to come out fight, pretending like he didn't know what they were telling him. Then his corner spilled ice, so they would delay even more. It was this huge delay between the second and third round to get Romero's energy back up, and then Romero catches Kennedy with a shot in the third round and wins. It was extremely controversial. John McCarthy gave him way too much time to recover, let him pretend like he didn't know what John McCarthy's pretending. I don't speak English. You guys, you've been fighting in the UFC. You know when a referee says "let's go," it's when the other guy's standing up in the middle of the ring, his corner no longer there, his stool not sitting on a stool, and you're still sitting on a stool, and then after that your corner spills ice on purpose and all this stuff. He should have got suspended, not suspended. He should have got disqualified or been considered a stoppage. And right now, Tim Kennedy would be 4-0 in the UFC. He beat Michael Bisping last time Michael Bisping fought, and he beat him easily. He won all 3 rounds. He's got a win over Robbie Lawler. I think I looked up in his last 12 fights, he's 9-3. His only 3 losses are to Luke Rockhold, a former champion that he lost the Strikeforce title to. I'm sorry, no, he didn't lose. He lost to Jacare. Tim Kennedy, former Strikeforce champion, lost a close fight to Rockhold, lost an extremely close, controversial fight to Jacare, and then obviously the Romero loss. There is some things against him. He's 36 years old. He hasn't fought in 2 years. But he has the charisma. Like you said, they could use this all-American angle, Sergeant Slaughter type angle, former Green Beret. He's actually on the ISIS hit list. Not like Green Beret, it's like his actual name. They wanted to kill him because obviously he's a decorated war veteran. He's been doing this thing with History Channel. I haven't watched it, but Hunting Hitler.
Hunting Hitler, yeah.
I don't know if you guys watched it. If you have watched it, that's who the host is, Tim Kennedy, I guess. He's got a great persona. He's a great fighter. He's got decent hands. He's got a very good wrestling base. He does more of a clinch style wrestling where he gets inside, gets a clinch, takes him down. But it's hard not to root for this guy. I mean, this guy fought in Iraq, fought in Afghanistan. He's a hero. He's won the Bronze Star with Valor, all kinds of stuff. You hear all these crazy stories about him. Who I think they might put him against. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but you say a big name. I think a big name's at middleweight. What would make sense? I think Anderson Silva. I can see that match. Makes sense for both guys. The guy I would like to see them put against is I think he should get Yoel Romero. I think we should run it back. I kind of think that fight should have been ruled either a win for Kennedy or a no contest. Run it back. I think Tim Kennedy gets a shot. And if Tim Kennedy beats Romero, who obviously is a top contender, already has a win over Bisping, I could see this guy fighting for a title in a year. Do I think he does? Who knows? 2-year layoff is a long time, but I'm excited to have him back. He's another big name. He talks a good game too. Obviously, I like him. I mean, I think pretty much. I don't know anybody who doesn't like Tim Kennedy. It's hard to not root for a Green Beret, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, Keith. If I can hop in quick, I love Tim Kennedy. I've watched some of his stuff and just kind of caught up on videos ever since I saw news broken with you guys. He with the comeback and who I'd like to see him fight. Again, we're in agreement. He had his own kind of little hit list of people that he called out. Yoel Romero, Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort. Like he called out all these guys who used, who got caught using the banned substances and stuff. I would like to see him get another shot at Romero. I think it would be a great fight. He's going to come out with a lot of energy. He's going to come out with a lot of, not just a chip, but a whole block on his shoulder, I think. I think he's going to come out and kind of show people what it's all about with his comeback. He's very vocal, like you said. He's been talked to previously by Dana White and everything about speaking his mind or whether it sits well. He's not going to have anybody stop him. If he's going to say something, he's going to say it. I like that. Like I said with McGregor and any across any sport. I like the big mouth guys as long as they can back it up. If you talk out of the side of your neck and then you go and get your ass kicked your butt kicked. That's just a recipe for falling out of the spotlight. But I mean if you back it up. You're gonna, and I think that ties in again with what you're saying about UFC needing star power, need bankable stars. I think Tim Kennedy coming back is huge for the brand as well. But I'd love to see his first fight back be to get some revenge against Romero.
It's interesting you said Vitor Belfort. I didn't even think about that name. That'd be an interesting fight too.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't know, because I mean Vitor Belfort's been fighting like forever, right?
Yeah, I think it's. I want to say his first UFC was UFC 12.
I was gonna say I thought he was like double digit for UFC for his debut. But I just remember reading somewhere he called out Vitor, and maybe his first fight back would be Vitor, and then you use that fight with Belfort to hype the return and the fight against Romero for that #1 contender spot.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's tough to tell. It's hard to see a guy's 36 years old, what he is. But according to him, he's been training this whole time that he's been away. So I don't know how true that is. I don't know how intense that training is.
I mean, like you said, though, dude's a he was Green Beret. Like, it's not like he's not going to be in shape.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All right, running off of the star power and guys who aren't afraid to say what they want to say. Weekend coming up, we got McGregor versus Diaz too. Neither one of these guys will back down from anything they feel like saying. They're going to say it. What do we think? Is McGregor going to get submitted again? Does he use his energy more wisely? Jay, we can actually start off with you on this one. What do you think happens, man?
All right. I'm glad we get to. I was kind of glad I get to start before Keith reads my mind and all my preparation goes out the window. So I'll let Keith come back. But I think me and him are on opposite sides of the fence section on this one. I think McGregor learns. He's a smart dude. For as much as he talks and as brash as he is, I think he's a pretty smart, student of the game, so to speak. Where I think he came up, he put on the weight, he went out there and he went, 112%. They spent most of the fight. I mean, leaving pieces of each other all over the mat, and it ended up costing him at the end where he was just, they're getting gassed. And I think McGregor is going to take that into account. I think his training is going to be centered around expending his energy better. And I personally, I think McGregor is going to win, if only because his drive to not go down 2-0 to Diaz. His ego, I think, is going to kick in, where I don't think, he was pretty, no, I wouldn't say graceful, but like his post-fight interview after losing, I think he handled it a lot better than a lot of athletes today. So I think when he comes into this next fight, it's gonna be with again another chip on his shoulder here. He knows the whole world is gonna be watching to see if the brash, loud Irishman is gonna redeem himself against Diaz. And maybe this is where somebody who has a little bit more intimate knowledge, or a lot more intimate knowledge of the game, like Keith, can kind of tell me where my thinking might be off a little bit. But again, just my basic opinion, I think McGregor's going to come out smarter than last time, and I think he's going to win.
What do you think, Keith?
I'm going to pick against McGregor. Go figure.
No ground game.
I'm the McGregor hater and all that. I definitely see areas where McGregor can win. His power is unmatched in that weight class. But moving up in weight against a bigger fighter, I think, and against a guy like Diaz who has a chin that the only person that ever knocked him out is Josh Thompson, and he's been in the UFC for 10, 11, 12, whatever, 12 years now or something like that, fighting the best of the best. I know they're saying that the word is that McGregor is absolutely obsessed right now, that he's never watched film before on his opponents. He's watching film. His coach claimed that he spent $300,000 on this training camp.
Wow.
Flying in long-rangey fighters, guys that mimic Diaz's style, getting good grapplers for the ground. Supposedly John Kavanaugh, his coach, is claiming that McGregor could submit Diaz if he goes to the ground.
Wow.
I'll get to that in a second.
Talk is cheap.
Talk is extremely cheap.
I've heard that so many times. You go against a good wrestler, he's going to out-wrestle him. You go against a good boxer, you got out-box. I mean, it's the oldest thing going. McGregor is great. He uses his range great. He stays on the outside, he punches, keeps guys right at the end. Then he lands a little shot set up, and then boom, he steps in for the big shot. His speed is great. His power is great. The thing is, it's the first time he really got tested in the UFC where a guy felt his power and didn't back down. I know a lot of people. I was sitting at the bar, sitting next to Jay Martin, and Jay Martin says to me, he goes, when McGregor's teeing off on Diaz, he says to me, he goes, last chance to jump on the McGregor bandwagon. That's what he says to me. And I just started noticing that Diaz is always a slow starter. You watch his fight against Michael Johnson right before this one. He was losing the first round. Then he found his range at the end of the first round and took over. And I noticed that Diaz started answering back and started catching McGregor. And I could see the whole shift. But I was at a bar where I didn't see nobody. I don't think anybody else noticed where the shift was coming. When I turned, it was probably 30 seconds after Jay Martin said that. I turned to him and I go, last chance to jump off the McGregor bandwagon. And he thought I was nuts. He was like, that's a 10-8 round. And, being Jay Martin. And I said it to him again. I said, Jay, last chance to jump off the McGregor bandwagon. And I've heard so many people say that McGregor got tired, which I agree. He looked like he got tired.
Yeah.
But he also got hurt on the feet. People ignore that. Diaz caught him and he was rocked. And then he shot in. and then he got submitted. He was on the ground. I've been saying for years now his ground game sucks. I thought Chad Mendes showed that. He hits the ground. I love that Nate Diaz says, "Oh, you're a wrestler now." When I guess McGregor shot it, he said to him, "Oh, you're a wrestler now," and then submits him. I keep hearing everyone saying, "Oh, McGregor's going to conserve his energy better, and then he'll knock him out," which could happen. That wouldn't shock me if it does. But let's not forget, Nate Diaz took this fight on like 10 days' notice. He was supposedly on a cruise ship in tequila and stuff.
I thought that was Diaz's regular training.
Which might be, yeah. It's usually it's
tequila binges.
There is things that bother me. Supposedly, Nate Diaz has been known to, both Diaz brothers have been known to not get up for certain fights. He kind of did that against the Rafael Dos Anjos fight. He actually missed weight for the Rafael Dos Anjos fight. So I could see that. But if you can't get up for Conor McGregor in the main event, then you shouldn't be fighting. Because if that guy can't get you motivated, then who can? I think Diaz has the long range to counteract. He has longer range than Conor McGregor. He's got an even better chin than Conor has. The ground game is unmatched. If Diaz ever takes the ground, it's all over. Kavanagh's claiming that McGregor can submit Nate Diaz. Then they really underestimate Nate Diaz ground game. This is a guy who submitted Jim Miller. He submitted Kurt Pellegrino. He committed Junior Assunção. All three of those guys are black belts. Kurt Pellegrino has his own gym where UFC fighters train under him. He's legit. He goes into grappling. He's in Abu Dhabi, and for Nate Diaz to submit him, that's insane. I think that McGregor stock takes another huge hit. I think Diaz takes him out again, and I think now Diaz might be the star that the UFC can use now. The anti-establishment style, I don't give a fuck kind of guy.
I was actually going to follow that up, Keith. I was going to ask you that. If Diaz beats McGregor again, do you think McGregor just kind of fades out of the spotlight?
Well, I mean, he's still the champ, but he has to go down to 145. The multiple weight classes is all over.
Well, I mean, like once he gets down, for his first title defense, if he loses 2 fights in a row to Diaz, do you see that rattling him when he goes back down?
I don't know.
Or does he use it to kind of...
It's really hard to tell because he doesn't seem rattled coming into this fight so far from the interviews I've heard. You could see him winning the mental game against Jose Aldo in the past. So to fight Jose Aldo again, who it's weird because Jose Aldo is a legend. He's fought the best of the best. And for McGregor to already beat him in the psychological, get him right out of his game, I could see him doing that again. But to get embarrassed twice, if that happens, and forget it. If he loses a rematch to Aldo, then forget it. But I could see him losing his fans. I could see the fans jumping up. I mean, what amazes me about Ronda Rousey, and it amazes me about MMA fighters, MMA fans all in general. I remember being at Buffalo Wild Wings when Ronda Rousey fought Betch Correia, and I remember the place chanting USA, and in a bar. It was unbelievable. The atmosphere was unbelievable. Me and my friend Doug and my friend Mike were there, and it was unbelievable. My friend Doug pulled out his phone and started videotaping. And when Rousey knocked out Correa, the place went crazy. Then 3 months later, she gets knocked out by Holly Holm, and everyone jumps off the bandwagon. And I always wanted her to lose. She was an asshole. She was too cocky, and blah blah blah. I always said her stand-up sucks, and blah blah blah. And now she's done. Now everyone thinks she's a mental midget and all this stuff. But she might be. I don't know. But it's just funny. And I've seen it with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was this incredible Hulk type guy, huge freak athlete, super strong. And now
pounded in Frank Mir's face.
You get the guy that always knew he couldn't strike, and I always knew he was on steroids, and I always knew he wasn't that good. It's like that's what MMA has done. Tito Ortiz, all the people, you look at my top 25 rankings, all these people started bashing Tito Ortiz. Go back to 2002, 2003. Tito Ortiz that's who everyone loved. Everybody loved him. He was a Conor McGregor before Conor McGregor. He was a guy that talked trash. He talked before, he talked after, and everybody loved him. All of a sudden, he starts losing matches. He was a bum. He never beat anybody good. Blah 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 blah.
I like it.
You guys kind of jumped right into what's next for each of these guys.
Sorry to steal your thunder, Justin.
McGregor's that's where we're heading anyway, man. So yeah, McGregor after this fight, regardless of the decision, he needs to go back down to featherweight and do something with the belt. 2 champions in a weight class, one as an interim champion. It's not a good look. So I feel like we know where McGregor needs to go, and maybe he'll go down there, maybe he'll do his thing, and he'll dominate everybody the way he did when he came up. Even further down the road, maybe make the jump to lightweight. Him and Khabib and Dos Anjos, and now Alvarez apparently. Could be some good fights in there, but that would also put him back in the same weight class as Diaz. So, what is next for Diaz though? That's where I'm not really too sure. Jay, what do you think? Where do you think Diaz goes next?
And that's something I haven't really looked into. So I guess I'm gonna give Keith the floor first on this. Mostly, I just looked really into the McGregor Diaz, and I'm not entirely sure what's next. I think the sky is the limit for Diaz, though. I mean, he's getting tons of good publicity here against McGregor. His name is right up there with McGregor's now. When people talk about UFC, everybody's talking about McGregor. It used to be Rousey, but I really think more people are talking about Diaz more than they're talking about Ronda Rousey or Holly Holm or anybody anymore. So I think this is a big opportunity for Diaz, but I'm gonna turn it over to Keith, and he'll be able to kind of give us I think a better picture of what realistically comes next. I just know that there's a lot of opportunity, like he was mentioning before. There's a lot of opportunity for Diaz going forward.
Well, it depends on whether he wins or he loses. I'll go with if he loses first. If he loses, I mean, the most obvious thing they could do is finish it up and do a trilogy. I really hope they don't do that yet. I can see that later on down the line, especially because you hold up the 145 division. You hold up the biggest star in the UFC in McGregor. I could see him if he loses, could fight like a Michael Chiesa or maybe Dustin Poirier would make a lot of sense. A rematch with Donald Cerrone if Cerrone goes back down to lightweight, something like that. If he wins, if he beats McGregor, the biggest star in MMA right now, or at least the biggest male star, between him and Rousey's kind of debatable who's the biggest star, but if he beats McGregor again, the sky's really the limit what you can do with him. You can make a strong argument from a money sense to go right to the lightweight championship and skip the line, fight the winner of Eddie Alvarez, Khabib Nurmagomedov. If Alvarez is champ, I could see Diaz beating Alvarez. If Nurmagomedov is a champ, I don't think he has a prayer. Stylistically, I think it's a horrible matchup. But another fight, if you want to do a blockbuster main event, UFC 205 in New York City, is George St. Pierre versus Nate Diaz. Nate tries avenging Nick Diaz. You got the good guy in St. Pierre, doesn't really talk trash, welcome you back. And then you got Nate. George ain't a real fighter. He's doing steroids. He's a punk bitch. Stockton, all this.
Stockton slap.
Yeah, I'll bitch slap him. I can see that angle. So those are two oscillators. I mean, I can also see if you really think about the rankings, put him up in a number one contender fight against the winner of Dos Anjos and Tony Ferguson or something like that. Are we gonna do McGregor or no?
Yeah, what do you think for McGregor? I mean, go down, defend your belt. Outside of that,
I can kind of throw out these ideas, and you tell me what you guys think. If he loses, there's only one thing you can do with him. If he loses, he has to go down to featherweight and fight Aldo.
Yep.
If he wins, obviously the Aldo fight is still an option, and also finishing the trilogy is an option. A trilogy with Nate. If my other two ideas, I have three more ideas that could happen. He'd have to get rid of the 145 belt. He'd have to announce he's not going back, and they'd have to make Aldo the official champion. The first one, this guy was lined up to fight Rafael dos Anjos. You could have him fight Rafael dos Anjos if he beats Tony Ferguson, or you could have him be next for a title fight. Just because of the name, the Stars skipped the line. That's just how it is. He skipped the line to start when he was supposed to fight Dos Anjos for the belt. They could still have that angle of trying to get the two-title belt. I actually think he's a good matchup against Eddie Alvarez. Not saying he would beat Eddie Alvarez, but I think stylistically that would actually be a really interesting fight that I could actually see Conor McGregor winning. Khabib Nurmagomedov is a horrible matchup for Conor McGregor, and McGregor doesn't want to go against a wrestler. The another one I could see happen is I could see him fighting Nick. He's got one rivalry with Nate. Nick comes back in the fold, trying to beat both Diaz brothers. Obviously, the Diaz brothers sell. McGregor sells. I can see that happening. But then the fight that I really don't want to see, but I could totally see the UFC trying to cash in. Arguably, probably. I mean, if he beats Nate Diaz, if he beats Nate Diaz, he beats him in spectacular. Big knockout. George St. Pierre. I could see main event, New York City, St. Pierre versus just cashing in. You're saying, listen, we're trying to this is a pure 100% money grab. We're trying to break the record of UFC 100 for pay-per-view buys. Conor McGregor, George St. Pierre. St. Pierre said he wants that fight, and McGregor wants money, so I can see that. How would you guys? All right, let me ask you. I want you guys both. How would you guys feel about an immediately trilogy if Conor wins?
I'd hate it. To be honest with you, I really don't want to watch three of them. I mean, I guess how the fight goes may change my mind about that, but I don't see the fight going long for any decision with those two. I just don't see it being more than a 2-round fight, to be honest with you, regardless of who wins.
I don't like the idea because you're locking up two guys for. You figure another 3 months. That's for a whole year.
Yeah,
you just fought each other. How would you feel about Conor McGregor versus Nick Diaz?
I would like that. Only if McGregor wins. Like if McGregor,
of course.
Yeah, like. My personal, out of all the ones that you list as options, my first thing I would like to see the Aldo rematch. Either way, if McGregor wins the second fight, I don't want to see a third fight against Diaz right away, and I think a lot of casual fans may not want to see it either. They want the casual fan might want that variety, where they're like, all right, we've already seen him fight the 2 in a row now. The next fight, maybe put him up, bring him back down, defend it against Aldo, or keep him up, and fight. Like your idea. I like your idea on paper. GSP against McGregor, because and like you said, that again is a type mismatch where you're gonna have GSP who doesn't really jaw, and nobody really jaws. Diaz and McGregor are like the two top jawers, I think. But I would be interested to see how McGregor talks about GSP going into that fight, because you got to give respect where respect is due, and I really think it'd be fun. I mean, I like McGregor to a point, but I really like GSP, and I think it'd be really fun to watch those two go at it.
I'm not so sure I would really like a McGregor versus Nick Diaz fight. I mean, I can already hear all the trash talk that McGregor's going to put out. It's like, oh, your brother couldn't beat me. Now you got to step in and fight his battles for him. You won't do a third one, this, that, and, you know. I don't know. It seems a little predictable for me. But from Nick's aspect, I imagine Nick would have some pretty fun stuff to say. I don't know. I want to see him go back to his weight class and defend his belt and take care of the business that's been put off for however long now. Coming up on a year, like you said.
Another thing about the Nick fight is Nick. I mean, people think Nate is big compared to McGregor. Nick would be humongous. Nick has fought. He had a little time where he fought a lightweight, but he mostly was a welterweight. There's times he's actually fought a middleweight. I think he'd be too big. But who knows? He hasn't fought forever. And that's not. I mean, I was saying that's an option, but I would say the Aldo is the fight, and that's the one that Dana White is claiming could happen. Claiming is going to happen next, no matter what, win or lose. That's what he said in a recent interview. But I take Dana White's word not often. So money talks, and who knows? Maybe McGregor versus CM Punk is McGregor's first WWF star that he fights.
Yeah, you know what? The headlines he's making now with the trash talk between him and pretty much every wrestler on the roster.
Yep.
That'd be interesting, but I'm not sure CM Punk would want to take that battle for a company that he doesn't really respect anymore.
I love Ric Flair saying, "Give me my gimmick back."
That was gold. I loved that.
What do you? I guess Keith and Justin, what do you think about McGregor calling out John Cena? That was kind of funny.
Yeah, the 40-year-old fat guy, Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, like John Cena is certainly a lot of things, but I don't know if fat is jumping to the front of my list.
I never read the McGregor tweets or anything. I just saw Justin post a story, and I only saw the response from the WWF wrestlers. I think Jay Martin's a little crazy what he was saying about this might surprise people when he said he'd line up all the WWF wrestlers and beat them all up.
I know.
There is some huge dudes in the WWF. I don't follow WWF, but I'm thinking like when I was a kid, I would just take Hulk Hogan over him just on a pure size sense, or
the Big Show.
Angle. I know Kurt Angle asked for the big
Big Show is 7'1", like 340.
Well, Big Show got punched in the face by Floyd Mayweather.
Big Show also, but I mean he stayed up for it, didn't he?
Well, Floyd ran away and then Big Show couldn't catch him. So.
Shocking nobody. Floyd Mayweather dancing.
With Conor McGregor, who knows what's going to happen?
I personally feel like McGregor is trying to make a jump and do a villain spot, turn heel on the WWE. I feel like he's John, and he's going to get another payday. Vince McMahon is going to sign him to some money to just rile people up.
Could you imagine him in WWF with the way he talks? Imagine giving him, a week or so to come up with a little trash talk bit.
Oh, it'd be amazing. I feel like they could have him on Chris Jericho's highlight reel, and then tag team him up with Hornswoggle.
I'm one of the few MMA guys that I actually like the little partnership going on between MMA and WWF or WWE, whatever. If you had Conor McGregor going on Monday Night Raw or whatever, Monday Night SmackDown,
Monday Night Raw.
And is it Monday Night Raw? Yeah. Going on there and cutting a bit, promoting his fight or whatever.
I think that would bring WWE.
Oh, we just lost Jay. I'm not sure what happened there. But no, the partnership thing, I mean, they explored it a little bit at WrestleMania last year, where Rousey came out and she did a segment with The Rock. You know, they were, you know, drawing back and forth a little bit with McMahon's daughter, and Rousey actually like flipped Triple H over and was going to put him in an armbar. It was pretty humorous. But they had the whole Four Horsemen sitting right up front at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's money to be made there for both sides.
Yeah, McGregor knows having. I mean, Kurt Angle just called him out, so who knows? You could have seen Kurt Angle fighting Conor McGregor next, or there's Amir Khan, the boxer, wants to get into MMA. He could be fighting McGregor. Who knows?
There was a guy. He was in UFC. Matthew Riddle was in UFC for a while. He left on some bad blood stuff. I don't really remember what happened, but he actually took up wrestling now. Yeah, he wrestles down the street from where I live, like 10 blocks from where I live, and he does like some WWE type stuff now. And he was one of the people who had something to say back to McGregor after his comments. So I feel like that would be a good.
Matt Riddle is a
bring them both up together.
So, but he's way bigger than. And if he's doing WWF wrestling, I'm assuming he's even bigger now.
He's pretty good size.
Well, I know one of the guys that Conor McGregor called out by name was Brock Lesnar, which obviously would not be a good day for Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that's just it's a little foolish, but blame the PEDs.
So UFC 202 is this Saturday. What do we got coming up this week? Obviously a DraftKings league. We have the fantasy pick'ems, and I think me and Zach will do another great debate. Perhaps. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, you know, every time you and Zach get together and put out any kind of list, I learned tons about these guys that I didn't really know anything. So definitely looking forward to that if you're able to do it. I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit on the UFC fantasy. I'm kind of closing in on you guys. I'm sitting in fourth right now, and maybe I think it was like 200 points out of first.
Is that for the period?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sneaking up, man.
That's for the period, right? Not for the overall, right?
The overall, I don't think I'll ever catch up, because when we first started doing it, I wasn't picking actively, you know. But the period, I feel like I'm in there. You know, I got a chance.
All right.
We'll have to see what happens.
All right. Before we get, I want to thank Jay for jumping in. For people who don't know, he kind of came in very last minute. Just like MMA, he got short night of his fight. He won it. Unfortunately, Kurt Smith was supposed to be on. Something happened with his family. I think USADA showed up testing him for PEDs, and he failed, so he had to get taken out. But anyways, Jay came in. He did a great job. I think our next show we're going to try to do sometime next week, maybe even Sunday. Basically, talking about all the ins and outs of UFC 202, and I can only imagine what's going to happen.
Thanks for having me, guys. I had a really good time.
Yeah, great having you on, man. Great job. You definitely did your homework before the show. That showed. Always
it's easy when there's some quality stuff up in sports talk about it, so it's easy to follow along and get a little bit better insight.
So it's like my homework was I went on Sports Talk and I clicked on the hashtag MMA Takeover Sports Talk.
I'm not gonna lie.
And I just learned everything.
I'm not gonna lie. When you asked for somebody to jump in, I was like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, it'd be fun. Yeah, I love talking with you guys. And as soon as you said, okay, I'll let them know, I immediately went to the search bar in Sports Talk and went hashtag MMA Takeover MST. And I read like 3 or 4 stories and got a little bit of insight so I wouldn't make a complete idiot out of myself.
You did really good.
Thanks.
Really good. I got I took the number 2 role twice now. Zach beat me and you beat me.
All right, fellas, that's wrapping up
Yes.
the second episode of what's unofficially now called the Clinch from Sports Talk. We Sports Talk Live. Keith, great job. Thanks for coming on. Jay, great job. Thanks for coming on. And I'll see you hopefully on Sunday.
Fuck Roger Goodell.